Welcome to the Here and Now Show. I am your host, Lavonda Ray. And if you tuned into my Here and Now show, you know that I'm coming from the Midwest where we show in and show out. Gotta love your city. Hello, somebody. And if you tune into my Here and Now show, you know that the Here and Now show is a show where I've took real life events and turned them into a positive living. And all, as you know, that all voices matter. So if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave it in the message box. So with that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. I am so blessed to be here and I'm glad to be here. And I hope you guys are feeling blessed too. It is such a blessing. And if this is your first time joining, welcome to the family. I am so glad that you're here. And I hope that you guys know it's Tuesday. So I hope that your week or your beginning of the week and your weekend was great. I hope everything was nice and everybody got along and everybody shared love to bring us to Tuesday. So again, I am blessed to be here. This conversation, sometimes you just want to just grab the microphone and be like, hey, grab the microphone and let's talk about it. So, can we all join that to have fun with that? So, as you already know, grab your coffee or you grab that tea, or if you're cleaning, pause for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Take a break, or if you're in the bathroom hiding from the kids, I see you. Or if you got that snack that you hid from the kids, I see you too. Or if you're just sitting on the porch at home, this is a safe place. Today's conversation is women, stand on your beauty, and men, you still got it. Stop apologizing for what God made you. I'm not talking about Instagram beauty or TikTok beauty. I'm talking about your beauty. You're being handsome, you being beautiful. And can I ask you guys something? When did we start believing that every wrinkle needs to disappear? Or that every stretch mark should be hidden, or that every gray hair needs to be colored. Now, listen, this conversation is for me too because I seen some gray in my hair and I freaked out and I'm like, I dyed it. But where do people come up with these rules where we have to do these things? I can tell you, I think it's people, place, and things. And it's crazy because the pressure, of living like that, trying to live one way and another way, because literally, you have AI that can create a person that is not even you. That person doesn't even exist. They create the perfect skin, the perfect face, the perfect body, the perfect uh, uh, skin. And meanwhile, there's somebody sitting at home crying because they don't look like the computer generated image. Come on now. We went from worrying about getting catfish by people on Facebook by stealing our pictures. And don't get me wrong, that's still a thing. People are still out here still catfishing and stealing pictures and pretending to be who they're not. But now it's more advanced. You have people creating AI and creating a whole entire person. Everything about it is fake, And here you're like, God, I want to say something. Even though AI is out here and people make these AIs, because we want to be beautiful, it looks great. You have the perfect everything. But one thing is for certain, and two is for sure, is that God Himself, He didn't make no mistakes when it came to making you or creating you. He built you to be beautiful, He built you to be handsome. You are exactly who you are meant to be. You're not almost pretty and you're not almost handsome. No, you are. You are, and you're still becoming. You are still knowing how to love, and you're still out here being you. So before we get into it, y'all know how I like my little jazz just to kind of set the mood, set the stage. So we're gonna take a moment for a little bit of jazz, and then I will be back. I'm not really going nowhere, but grab that coffee, grab that tea, or go to the bathroom, take your hands off the steering wheel, and dive in. We're just gonna jazz for a few seconds. Welcome back. Welcome back. So I have a question. Have you ever noticed how some people they don't even know they're beautiful until someone tells them? They don't even know they're handsome until they've been told. It can happen. And then the next person they see call them ugly and then they're just like confused. Why is that? Maybe because you're borrowing someone else's mirror, meaning If someone says your hair is ugly, where do you go change your hair? If someone says you're too tall, too short, too big, too much weight, not enough weight, too big, now you're starving yourself because someone says, oh, you're too big. Now you're starving yourself. Don't do that. Or they say you're too loud, you're too quiet. My point is, people will always have something to say. It doesn't matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody that says something that's going to make you think, oh, could I be doing better? Now, don't get it wrong. Sometimes when people say things, they truly mean things to make you maybe enhance on what you're doing, or maybe they see that maybe you're doing certain things that doesn't look so great, and maybe that can have an approval, and maybe check it out my thoughts. But that doesn't mean that what they're saying is factual, because you are who you are. So I have a question. There's a question is, um, someone asked me, why are so many people, the no, that wasn't a question. I'm sorry. That's gonna come later. So my point is, whether you're too big, or they say you're too small, or you're not this size, or you're not that size. Like I said, people will always have something to say. The question is to yourself, why are you allowing someone to hold the pen of your story? So, I mean, people have criticized my hair. I do dreadlocks, and then, I might put it in a big ponytail, or I might wear this. It doesn't matter. I change it, but people have something to say. You know, there was a season in my younger life where I wore shorter clothes. Like, I kind of liked it looking, the short skirt, maybe the little crop tops. Now, was I trying to be grown? Possibly. Or but in my eyes, I felt like I just liked the way it looked. I liked the outfit. And yes, it was ski. But as I noticed that I would, how you doing? As I noticed that even though with wearing what I enjoy wearing, I would often get attention that I didn't want. Like I would have like older men making comments, or even other people or other women looking at me like, "Dang, what she got on?" And assuming that they knew who I was. And it made me uncomfortable. And let me be clear, just because the way you dress, it does not give anybody the right to disrespect you. Never. You never have the right to do that. But unfortunately, people do it. People do it all the time. And understand that just because, you don't expect this person to judge you, the whole world judges. You can't get away from it. It's how you answer to those judgments. Do you say, yes, that is true about me? Because it's 9 times out of 10, it's not. But we live in the world where people are quick to judge, and it shouldn't, but it does. It doesn't mean that you change out of fear because they said, hey, do this, and then you change it because you're in fear of what other people might think. Don't change out of fear. You know, dress the way it represents you. Dress the way you feel. Dress who you are, not who other people want you to be. And I had to learn that okay, I'm gonna dress the way I feel. And if you have something to say, then have something to say. But also be mindful that everyone's not in that space or mental space where you at, because there will people that will say weird things and say certain comments or look at you a certain way because of your dress. But keep your head up. Keep your head up. Don't allow that to happen. There was another question. Someone asked me, have you ever changed something about yourself just because you wanted people to appreciate you? Like I said, some of us will change themselves. You're too big, they're trying to lose weight. And sometimes, being too big, too small, too much makeup, not this makeup, that makeup, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, take away this, take away that. And you find yourself changing your whole personality. And if and it's crazy because you don't want to walk in that mind state. There are people that will say, hey, get into confrontation, and they might say, hey, that's why you're broke. And meanwhile, the next person, they get on live or they get on video and they start posting videos or them having money and, making appointments. But for real, do you really have to do that? I mean, I get it, but I feel like if you're pushing motion, they're going to see it regardless. You don't have to make a special presentation saying, I'm doing this because you said this, because now you got on their level. Now you're being like them, like, oh, you don't have this. Well, clearly I have it, but do I have to prove it to you? And sometimes you want to prove stuff because it makes you feel better. But sometimes you just shake your head to that because you know what you're doing and keep that door closed, because hating will always surface when you're doing things that you should do, you know. Um, so it makes it hard, but get it. Understand it. You don't have to show it. The only thing you got to prove is prove it to yourself. You don't have to prove anything to everybody else. You know, you can stroll through line and there are people that have the great relationships and, they go on vacation every day. But social media has become everyone's highlight reel, like what they're doing. And now you're comparing yourself and maybe that lifestyle does not even exist. So don't, my advice to you is don't try to chase perfection. Don't lose yourself chasing perfection because confidence doesn't say, I look better than her and I'm jealous because she's pretty. No, confidence says, I'm pretty and I'm beautiful too. I'm handsome and he is handsome too. Those are two different things of saying, oh, you know, I'm comparing myself to this person versus as I'm just as beautiful as this person too. So it's really no comparison. So confidence is not saying that you're prettier than someone. Confidence in saying that I am pretty too. You know, um, I am beautiful because you don't want to spend your whole life auditioning for someone else. So you walk into a room and you own it. You smile because I had to be told that. I had to be told, you need to own that room. Excuse me, guys. I had to be told that you need to own the room when you walk in because there were some things about me that I was like, ugh, I don't like. So own your flaws, own your scars, own your story because you survived it and it shows in your face. And that's amazing. Your survival shows in your walk, the way you talk, the way you present yourself to people. Another question was, what if people still criticize me? I say this, let them, let them, because them criticizing you says more about them than it does about yourself. Another question was, how do I build confidence? Keep promises to yourself. Celebrate small wins. Speak kindly to yourself, and then that confidence will be like a seed. You plant it and you just feed it, you water it just like a plant, and you keep doing it all through the seasons. And can I be honest for a moment? This particular conversation for me is personal. I didn't pick this topic because it sounded good. I didn't choose this topic because it looked good. I chose this topic because I actually lived it. There were times in my life where I wasn't satisfied with the way that I looked. I would look in the mirror and I could always find something wrong, whether it was my head too big or maybe my eyes didn't look the way I wanted it to. I wanted a little bit of this and a little bit of less of this. And then people make it worse because once you tell yourself that insecurity clicks in, you start believing it, right? And someone might say to me, oh, she's pretty, but she have a big forehead. Now, damn, wait a damn minute. Now, how did we go from me being pretty to my big forehead? You know, it is big, but dang, I mean, I know that. But it's funny how people can search for one flaw that you have and then they because they don't want to admit that you really are beautiful, you really are handsome, so they spend their time walking on pins and needles trying to find your flaws. Has anybody ever experienced that? It is those little words that people can say to you can destroy your confidence. Those are words that destroy people's confidence. Saying that you'll be prettier if you had this, or you'll be handsomer if you had that. But people who say that, I again, I'm yes, welcome, welcome. And I said hi. How you doing? I'm glad you guys joined. We're just talking about loving ourselves, right? You guys love yourselves. Most of us some of us, we get upset and immediately we start to look in the mirror and seeing things that was already there because the mirror really doesn't lie. We lie to ourselves. Most of us notice the stomach before we notice the smile. You notice your wrinkles before you notice your wisdom. You notice your stretch marks before you see your strength. You notice your gray hair before your growth. And we have all trained ourselves that sometimes criticizing is we have trained ourselves to accept criticism, but you don't have to because God doesn't apologize for the way He made you. He's not apologizing for that. It's like, I made you this way. You are wonderful. And who taught us that beautiful only comes in one size? Hmm? Nobody. I say that again, and I say it again and again. Society. Society teach it just repeats it so long that you see it for so long, you start to believe it. And then that insecurity sets in because now you're believing what you see in society or you believe in what someone else says. And you, like I said, you start to believe it so long that it becomes your reality. Because beautiful isn't a size, it isn't a color, and it isn't an age. Beauty is just isn't perfect teeth or you know being the perfect skin. Like hell, is it really? No, beauty is confidence. Beauty is kindness. Stop apologizing for the body that carried you through your hardest season. You know, don't let insecurities of people become the author of your confidence. You know, don't let them become the reflection of your future because they can. They tear it down. And unfortunately, you can't change people because guess what? God didn't make a copy of you. He made an original. Do you understand what I'm saying? That mirror didn't lie to you. Your insecurities lied to you. Confidence begins when you stop asking strangers to vote for your worth. Your scars didn't make you ugly. Oh my God, they prove that you survived. Stop trying to edit your life. Stop trying to edit it what God has already made. I understand that sometimes you be like, I wish I had a little more of this, and then because I hear, and I see that there are things you could do to get surgeries, to be a little bit smaller, be a little bit bigger. Either way, congratulations, whatever makes you happy. Because a lot of people criticize that. Well, that's not how you were made. Well, life is about change. And if you felt like this was something I had to do to step into my change and journey, then do it. I'm proud of you. You're not hard to love. You're just talking to people that refuse to listen and to learn how to love. Because there's nothing, everybody says I have a big forehead. Oh my gosh, listen. I have been told that all my life. And I do have a significantly big forehead, but that means we learn a lot. We got a lot of things that we just know because that's why our forehead's so big because we're so smart. Smart. So it's okay to have a big forehead. You got a beautiful smile to go with that forehead and a wonderful personality, you know, and because you cannot win by trying to please people who changes the rules on you every 5 minutes. Here's what I learned um, back in the fourth grade. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, people say the things, but even in fourth grade, that brain was a twicking because it's so big because you're so smart, you know. But what I learned is that I don't need everybody to think I'm beautiful. I don't need it because you have to believe it. Long as you believe it, you don't need it. Everything for everybody to tell you. Because the moment you stand on your beauty, nobody else's opinion will shake your foundation. That is a true fact. And to be honest, I really truly don't believe there are ugly people that are walking this earth. I know a lot of people like, oh, that's so cliche. There is a lot of ugly people. There is not ugly people because we are all beautiful in our own special way. And I know people are like, girl, bye. Come on, man. But for real, maybe I'm wrong. But I don't believe that there's a world full of ugly people. Now, and I do believe that you have a world where there are people that are beautiful on the outside and you look at them and they're like drop dead handsome, drop dead gorgeous, but then when they speak they're negative and that beauty packs up and goes out the door. So I don't believe that there are truly ugly people in the world because we're all beautiful. That's saying there's somebody for everybody. There is. Somebody would love my big forehead, just because this person didn't, the next person will, because we are meant to love. We are born onto this earth to have love, to give love, to share love. So that's a lot of issues. And then once we get to knowing ourselves and loving ourselves, and then people come and try to shake that foundation. But as long as you are, and you believe in your heart that this is not who I am, they can't shake your foundation. You know that filter. I remember one time. True story. I was playing around with AI. I played around with it. I seen all these apps, and I'm like, ooh, I want to try that. So, I tried it, right? And when I tell you that those filters had me looking like I had never had a bad hair day, like I had been in the gym all my life. I mean, my skin was bow beautiful, right? AI had created something that wasn't even myself. I looked it good. I looked like I had never even ate a snack or a cheeseburger, and I eat a lot of those. I look perfect, almost too perfect. I almost asked the AI person, "Hey, can you give me that skincare you oh shoot, can you give me that skincare routine?" But for real, that computer, it wasn't me, it was strictly a computer. And that's the crazy part because for a split second, just for a moment, I was wishing that I looked like that filter version of myself. I was comparing myself to the fake me. Like, how do you do that? How does that even work? Like, who decides that your waist should be a certain size, or your hair should be short or your hair should be long? Who made those rules? Certainly not God. I'll tell you that right now. Certainly not God, because God has created masterpieces of all of us. Look at us. And then God was creating masterpieces long before AI even existed. Hello, somebody. So at the end of the day, who cares what people say about you? Who cares? Right? Because, see, that's the thing, because a lot of times, you know, as you grow up and you grow through life, you go through school and you survive that, because school is hard, when you're starting school and dealing with peer pressure and dealing with people saying, you got to be this way or that way. And it is a hell of a journey, And so, for my young teenagers and preteens, life is fun, but it also is about change too, and just love yourself, because a lot of people won't accept who you are choosing to be, and that's okay because you are special. You was created to be a masterpiece, and you're that. That same person that is like, I don't like your hair. You look later that week, they have the same hairstyle copying you. You know, People will change their opinions all the time. That is something that we cannot change. But stop giving strangers permission to validate your next move. Stop giving the strangers permission. Don't give the social media or the world chances to make you want to change when you're not ready to do that. You walk into that room like you belong there. Smile, smile it like it's yours, smile, because a smile goes so far. Wear your natural hair if you want to. If you don't want to wear your natural hair, wear a wig, wear whatever you want to wear. If you want to wear that red lipstick, baby, put that red lipstick on. It looks good on your skin. Put it on. Wear what makes you feel good, because confidence is waking up every morning and saying, you know what? I like what I see, And if somebody says negative things, then you know what? Don't let that carry out your day. Just shake your head and move on, because you was never created to fit somebody else's ideal of beauty. So you were never created to fit someone else's ideal of what beauty looks like. And trust me, like I said, I've met some really gorgeous people, met some really handsome men, like I said, the perfect smile, face, like you're like, God, they're so beautiful, they're pretty, you are blessed, and then, like I said, they opened up their lips and started speaking, and they became the most ugliest person you ever met. Hello, that is the worst. I remember a quick story. I I met this man one time, okay, and he was so fine. Oh my gosh, like clock it, as y'all say. He was fine. I was like, Lord, this would be my husband. He is good looking, but we never talked, right? Okay. So I was actually, I don't know, essentially watching him from afar. And, I wasn't being rude or anything, but I'm like, God, that guy is a good looking man. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you are too. And I thought, that's a handsome man, right? And so, as was looking at him at this convention that I was at, I was noticing that he was talking down to people. Like, oh my God, he was being so rude and nasty to everyone. And I'm like, oh Lord, send his ass back. What is wrong with this person? The nice packages, but when I opened the package, oh my gosh, she was the most nastiest monster I've ever met in my life. And then, and men, I know you guys probably have felt that too. You meet a woman, she's beautiful, and she's all of that and some change in your eyes, and then she starts to speak, and you're like, what the hell is this? Who the hell is this? Well, that beauty doesn't go far because you know, and you don't want that. You want the beauty to match the personality. You know, so remember that a beauty face, it can catch attention, but a beautiful heart keeps them. You know, looks may open many doors for you. It very well may, but character decides if you will stay or not. You can have the prettiest smile in the room and still make people cry by the things that come out of your mouth. Okay, and that's not attractive. It's just not. Real beauty is showing that I can make people feel good. I feel good, and I want to make you feel good. You know. And then here's another question that I was asked. Yeah, they said, "Here's a question for all of us. Why do people, when people leave a conversation with you, do they remember your face, or do they remember the kind words you spoke?" I say both. I say that, if you remember someone and you had a conversation with them and they spoke kind words, you remember those words and as well as their face because they was a kind person, you know, because beauty changes, character grows, right? Beauty changes, but the character grows. Kindness, it multiplies the respect that never, ever, ever goes away. So take care of yourself. Wear that outfit, fix your hair because you guys see if you guys been tuning into my show, I've had like three different hairstyles because I just love changing different looks. So, you know, because being being beautiful and then having an ugly attitude, that's not a good look, because a beautiful heart can make an original person or ordinary person very, very beautiful inside and out. So here's a reminder: be beautiful on the outside, but be comfortable on the inside as well. Because the kind of beauty that the kind of beauty that never wrinkles or never fades or never goes away is that beauty that's in your heart. A beautiful face might get you on the list, right? It might get you a look, but that beautiful face and that wonderful heart can get you a second date and a friendship that lasts forever. Looks will catch your attention. We know that. But a personality will keep someone there, right? A smile, your curves, your gray hair. Somebody will love those things about you because that is somebody for everybody. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. If that just because you tell them, oh, you know what, you want peaches, and they decide they don't want peaches, doesn't mean that the peach was bad. It just means maybe they wanted apples. I don't freaking know. So walk in confidence. Walk in love, because the right person will notice your beauty, and they also notice your heart, and they will appreciate it because you can't help but appreciate beauty. So I know that today's show, it, I know that it's hard sometimes to be confident in who you are and where you've been, but you have to keep that confident because beauty is beauty. They say beauty is skin deep, but again, you're beautiful. And I think that as far as men, you are handsome, you still got it, and we shouldn't have to apologize for being what God created because He didn't make any mistakes when He made us. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in with me. I'll be back on the air for like another about in 2 minutes. I'm going to take a break and then I'll come back for the questions, open mic. So if you guys have anything to say, for free. And I'll see you guys in about 4 or 5 seconds. And we're just going to have open mic. And if you choose not to say anything, that is perfectly fine. It is no pressure. I'm also, guys, want you to remember that I will also be having my merchandise for the Here and Now podcast. So I'm anxious to show you guys, and hopefully you guys will want to purchase. It's really good quality. It's for got it for kids, men, women. I have that, and make sure you guys check out my page, Marshall Books and More. So with that being said, I must get off this air. I thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in a few moments. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in.